Okay, great. Cool. Started my recording earlier. I'm doing a lot of things. It's getting better and better. It is
Yeah, absolutely.
improving. I'm excited.
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going in the right direction with everything. So I just want to do more with the marketing of it, like when we're actually doing it, where it says the Yananomics podcast, at the bottom it got some information scrolling, or I don't know what I need to do to get that done, but
Yeah.
I am hell-bent on that as well, so I'm excited about this.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Go for it. I mean, it's a great thing. And people get to talk about what they're passionate about.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Passion
Yes,
and passion carries over.
I think so. And so that's why it just means so much to me to be able to provide this platform, to folks. You got folks around, you got
Sorry,
kids.
my son, he,
How old is he?
he'll be 2 in December.
They be wilding,
I
they be
know.
wilding when they
I
that
try.
little.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far. I gotta go to another room.
Probably if you in like a main room, forget about it. Like I have to close myself up in my office to get anything done, because if I were just out and about, my daughter be bothering me, maybe crying. She want me to
Yeah.
nurse her. It's just too much. So I
Yeah.
already know how it go, like
Yeah.
big time. All right,
Yeah.
we got 1 minute left.
All right.
My libations.
I know, right?
Yes.
Salud.
Salud. Yes. All right, let's get started. Peace and good evening, everyone. I am Empress Ayana, your host for the Yananomics podcast and the visionary. Welcome to Teach Me Tuesdays with Zakari Fahim. Is it Fahim L?
Fahim
Yes.
L.
All right. Great. And he is going to be talking about sustainability off grid. I know that's not the exact title of your workshop this evening, but that's really what it's about. Being self-sustainable off grid. So thank you so much for being here with us this evening, Zakari. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited about this particular episode. I'm excited about all my episodes, but this one in particular is very dear to my heart, because I believe that self-sustainability through being able to grow your own foods and living off grid is of the utmost importance that we learn that as Black people. We're very dependent on systems and people to provide, and a lot of us are very disconnected from where food comes from, how food is grown, and what we can do outside of food in order to live less dependent on systems and more dependent on self, Ashe. So, yes, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, peace. First of all, thank you for having me on here. Let me move. I'm sorry, real quick.
It's all good.
He's screaming and hollering. We're gonna do this.
We
All
love
right.
the children.
Oh yeah. I wish he could just sit there and be live with us. All right.
Right.
Yeah. So appreciate you and everything you're doing with this podcast is it's awesome. I'm Zakari L, originally from Connecticut, Norwalk. I'm in the South now, and one of the main reasons why I came to the South is to do exactly what I'm going to talk about today, and that's just to live a more sustainable life, to have a better quality of life, in my opinion, of course, and to actually learn to get back in touch with nature and create a community, or be a part of a community, be a part of creating a community of people who would like to do the same. I could go on and on about myself, but I just want to get
Get
right
right
into
into it.
it. Yep, and
Okay.
we'll talk. And at the end, if anybody has a question or whatever, how it goes, we can
Yes.
get into that.
I'll give you I'll give you a check at the 30-minute time so frame so you can kind of know what we're working with. It's okay for us to go a little bit over. It's not a big deal, but I anticipate you'll have a lot of questions. So I'll be taking questions from people in the comments area when we get to the 45-minute mark
All right,
around that
awesome.
time.
That's
Okay.
perfect.
Do your thing.
So let's see if we can go ahead and. All right, so less is more, right? So I want to talk about freedom and what that looks like to me and why I decided to do what I'm doing. And one of the first questions that we have is, are you free? And everybody has their idea or definition of freedom. And what we're going to talk about here today is just being tied to the grid, being tied to the systems, having all of these bills, all of these obligations that keep you locked in to the system, keep you locked into what we call the grind or the everyday 9 to 5. And most people understand what that means when you say I'm at my 9 to 5. And 9 to 5 is, it's 8 hours, let's say, just the 8 hour days. It could be more or less, but an 8 hour day, that's a third of your life. And so spending a third of your adult life and really your childhood, because you start doing that when you start going to school from the age of 5 or 6 all the way up into what people call retirement. And so to me, in my experience, particularly once you start having a family and having children, it's not freedom. That's not freedom. You are constantly trying to make up time, constantly trying to figure out ways to get ahead, whether that be through entrepreneurship, through getting a second job, and making different sacrifices. But the people who actually lose out are your family, the people that you should want to be around. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about what type of freedom people, the words that are associated with freedom typically are financial, physical, like as of, being locked up or being held against your will somewhere, spiritual and mental freedom. And I'm going to talk the most about financial because in our society, in our day, financial freedom allows you to have some of these other types of freedoms. Physically, you don't have to be at a job all day. So physically, you are able to do more of what you want to do with your time. And when you have what people call financial freedom, but I'm going to show you how less is more, because typically what we think of is, I need to make more money to achieve this goal. And to a certain extent, that's right. That's correct. So, we're talking about doing what you want, when you want, traveling, and those types of things, that if you have an unlimited amount of money, then those things become available to you. And you can kind of live what they say above the law, right? You can do things, you can pay your way out of situations. You can have people working for you and things like that. But that's not the reality for the majority of people, particularly in today's time, right? And I know we have big dreams, big goals, and we should, of being able to make a lot of money. But I think that when we start to, and I'm a numbers guy, when we start to look at what it's like, what the numbers really are, how much money do you need to make to have that kind of life? And what do you have to sacrifice along the way to get there? So we're going to talk about, I don't know how that got there, but financial freedom. So what are your major bills, right? What ties you to the grid? And I'll talk a little bit about the grid. So the grid, for me, when I say it, is all of the things that keep you attached to the money. And when you're attached to the money, you're attached to what it takes to make the money. And And a lot of the people who might watch this, because I'm from Connecticut, are from Connecticut, and we understand that Fairfield County, where we grew up, is one of the richest counties in the United States. And you have some, Greenwich, New Canaan, Wilton, all of these places drive up rent, mortgage, and these types of things. So, excuse me. So what you end up doing is you end up having to work a considerable amount of time, be away from your family, and just to keep up, to keep a roof over your head, to keep the bills paid. So these are the things that tie you to the waking up, and then you get sucked right into whether it be traffic, whether it be just the grind of everyday life, being somewhere so that you can survive and have these things available like water, rent and mortgage, food bill, and energy. All right. So these are what I call the 4 roadblocks to freedom, which are also the 4 pillars of survival. So if everything was to stop, if there was no more money, there was no more people, so-called government taking care of us, would we be able to have these things? Would you be able to provide yourself with water? Would you be able to have a roof over your head? Some shape, some way, shape, or form. Can you do that on your own? I mean, also, can you provide food for yourself and your family? And in your head, while I'm talking, I want you to add up what this is for you monthly and think about how many hours of the day does it take you to fulfill these 4. We know there are more, but these are the main ones. And these are the ones that keep you tied to the grid. Because if if you can't pay your car, you just let it go, whatever, your credit, but you'll live, you can survive. You may be able, if you have a job or whatever, you may be able to take the bus, get a ride, take an Uber, catch a cab. Even if you have student loans, things like that, they're major bills, but they're not the pillars of survival in a grid down situation is what we call it. So if the grid goes down, these are the things you will need up front. And under rent and mortgage, you can put land, because you need land. Land is the basis for all of these things that I'm talking about right now. And in order for you to have these things, you need to be invested in some type of land, family land, buy your own land, share land with friends or family, come up with a way to get your hands on land, because that's where the real value is. And so in having land allows you to do these things and provide for yourself. So we'll talk a little bit about water. Water is like the main one, because without water, you can't grow food. And of course, you got to have water. Next to air, water's oxygen, water is the most important thing for you to survive. And so what you want to be able to do is harvest your own water. And so what you're looking at here is a water harvesting system. It's a simple roof catchment that diverts the water into this, which looks like probably a 2,500 or 5,000 gallon tank. And there are equations online and stuff for an individual to figure out how much water falls in their area, how much an average person uses, what things use the most water, like toilets use the most water. And you can figure these things out, and you say, you know what, I need a 2,500 gallon tank. I get X amount of rain in my area. And when it does rain, this will fill up, and you'll be able to catch and harvest water all the time, as long as you have this thing set up, and you won't need to pay a water bill. So now, talking about freedom, that's one thing that you don't have to worry about. And I have one of these. I built one. It's small. I should have used that picture, but I was just putting this together real quick. And so I built one of these. It's a little bit smaller than this. And my next goal is to build a bigger one. But it comes in many, many different shapes and forms and ways that you can harvest water. And so the next way to have it is to get a well. So some people have money, enough money to get a well dug. So we're talking about freedom. We're talking about having your own water. Now, this is an old school pump well, but in the same vein, you get a well, you this doesn't require any extra energy except for your human energy. But of course, we want to live in a little bit of luxury off grid. So you can have a well dug on your property, and then you put a pump in, which requires some type of energy because gravity to push it up. And now you have one of those bills is gone for good, pretty much forever. And I don't know how much people pay for water. It's different in different places and so on and so forth. And with this water, uh, same thing with the rainwater and with well water, you can buy a filtration system. You can make a filtration system. You can use some ancient technology or you can buy modern stuff. The modern stuff will kind of keep you on the grid a little bit because you'll need to buy filters and things like that, but it's very minimal compared to what it costs you to pay a monthly water bill for years and years and years and years. These filters last a long time. They filter out all of anything you can think of that you don't want in your water. They filter. And this water now allows you to have drinking water, bathing water, toilet water if you choose, because you can have different kinds of toilets, composting, incinerating, and that won't cost you any money as well. So, or water. So this is what we do for water. So now you need somewhere to live. You need a dwelling, and a lot of people, particularly, I mean, this is what I'm speaking about right now. Is very popular amongst young people and older people. So people, empty nesters, people whose children have gone gone to school or live and doing whatever they're doing on their own. They say, you know what, I'm gonna downsize. I'm gonna get me what they call tiny house. And I know everybody's heard about these things, tiny houses, but it's kind of intimidating. It looks like, it's too small or whatever. And for some people it may be, but for a lot of people, to stop the bleeding, to be able to stack money, to be able to create some type of freedom for themselves, they go to tiny route. And there's so many different kinds of tiny homes or RVs or different types of dwellings that you can choose to put on your land with your water catchment. And now you're free of two bills: no rent, no mortgage, no water bill. Again, less is more. Less is more, because if you're still working your regular job, or you have your business, or you get a different job because you have to move, you still cut out, I don't know, $1,000, $2,000 right there of your monthly, whatever. It depends on where you were living and where you go, but you've cut out a significant amount of your exporting money going out. And so on the screen now, it's just two different, the inside and the outside of a tiny home. It's cute and all that, but it's very practical, particularly for young people coming into the world, coming into their own, just starting to go to work. They may have college debt, but they don't have any other kinds of debt, hopefully. And this is where they can say, you know what, I can start my life ahead of the game, ahead of the pack, stacking money because I have no rent and I have no mortgage. And I'm not even paying a water bill at this point in the presentation. So this is why less is more and what we're talking about. And here's a geodesic dome, which we have here. And I should have put a picture of what the potential is inside. But inside of that, you have pretty much a luxurious place, nicer than most apartments that I've ever had or seen. It's an open floor plan. You can build walls in there. You see the pipe hanging coming out the top. That's for your heat. That's a wood stove. Looks like they have a lot of trees around there, so you never run out of that energy. And we'll get to energy later, but that's also another option for people. You have container homes and different options to build. And so let's say on average, you can start off doing something like this for about $10,000, and you can go as luxurious as you want into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. But again, that would defeat the purpose of this presentation. But some people, if you have the money, why not? You can do that. You've done with it. There's no bill, and you're living free. Now you got your water and you got a place to live. So most of these dwellings are on a property. And so you can easily start to go into the growing of the food. And so most of the people, who know me know that that's what I'm passionate about. More Love Farms is the farm. morelovefarms.com is our website. And we grow food. In this picture, you see collards, you got apples. You can grow whatever you want. You can put trees up. You got your food coming in, because the food is a major bill, and food is a necessity for survival. So you're surviving. You're starting to get it together now. You got your water. You got a place to live. You got food. Guess what? It's starting to look nice. Quality of life. You don't have to be to work. Maybe you drop down to part-time. Maybe the money that you were making just from your business or your hustle is enough to sustain your cell phone bill and your internet and the few things that you do need to pay. Maybe car insurance bills and things like small bills, the tax on your land, if you pay taxes on your land, which I recommend, just a little plug, that people look into creating religious organizations because they're tax-free. You creating these religious organizations, it's not a fraud. You have a spiritual, whatever it is that you do, you create the organization, and then you put your property and your entities and your things under it. And this allows you to not have to pay taxes on everything, all of your property, just like the churches and the mosques and the synagogues and the different places that you attend, which I'm not going to go there, which they should be doing for you, which other communities have this going on. So you and your friends who want to create a community behind what I'm talking about here, y'all are able to do it. Now you've averted another bill. So financial freedom, a lot of times in the presentations that I've seen in the 20 something years that I've been an adult, have always talked about how to get more, how to try to create opportunities that allow you to earn more money. And in this way, you become financially free. So what I'm trying to do is show people that less is more, and that if you cut out bills, it's the same as you making more money to pay those bills, in my opinion. So growing your own food, and this is self-explanatory. I don't have to go into details about, what that means for a family, but to be able to go outside and pick your greens, to pick your fruit, to pick your watermelon, things like that, and also create a business from it, which is what I'm doing, which is what a lot of people are doing. Excuse me. So, yeah, it allows you, everybody needs food. It's not like it's something that, you're going to just be doing alone. Once you get the hang of it, once you figure it out, you'll have people who need it, who will be willing to get it from you, knowing particularly that you're growing it sustainably and it's helping you, it's helping them. You can offer it probably at a better price or rate than it at the store. And so it just becomes a win-win for everybody. So I'm kind of moving through it kind of quickly, but we're knocking out the 4 roadblocks to freedom. We're creating the pillars for survival. The 4 pillars for survival. We are creating opportunities for those things to not cost money for you, and in a sustainable way. And so sustainable and there's so many different definitions and ways people look at sustainability as far as how you're affecting the planet and the earth and things like that. And I'm with all of that as well. But most of us have a plan in life. And you have to ask yourself, is what you're doing right now going to sustain you and help you get to that plan? And once you get there, how are you going to sustain it? And most people think about retirement. So what I'm saying about this presentation here is that this is what retirement is for most people. Most people look at retirement and say, how can I work as much as I can, save as much as I can, so that at the end of life, I can have all of these things paid for, right? That's what retirement looks like for most people. Is, all right, I want to have X amount of dollars coming in, and I want that to be able to pay for my basic needs. And I can chill and I can be with the grandchildren. I can travel. I can get a job now that I can save money in my 60s, 70s, and Allah willing, through you make it past that. So what I'm saying is, why not retire early? Why not take what I'm saying here, look at it and say, wow, that is retirement. You got a piece of land, you got a place to live, you have water to drink and grow food, you have food. Doesn't mean you're able to grow all of your food. Nobody's really growing rice and things like that. You might have to go get some grains. You want to go get your barbecue sauce or whatever it is, sure. But your main courses, the things that you eat, are going to be from your garden. And on top of that, it's sustainable for your body. It's now sustaining life for you to go on and live a longer life. So these are all win-wins. So you're able to filter your water, make sure you know what's in it and not in it. And that's also going to be healthier for you. You're going to be, on land, preferably or probably where you have more oxygen. So now you get, more clarity. These things all are win-wins. So not only are you knocking out bills, you are also creating a situation for yourself and your family. And that's why I'm talking about young people here. Because a lot of us, and I get it, a lot of us already been in this rat race, already been 5, 6, 7 years into a mortgage. And it's, it feels weird to just walk away from it or whatever to try to do this. And that's understandable. Some of us have our careers that we've put a lot of time and effort in, and, you want to finish it out, so to speak. And personally, I would be careful about that, especially in the times that we're in and what has happened over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, with this so-called pandemic, where you can see how much freedom you have and don't have, how much you are put into and forced into positions to make decisions about your body, i.e. vaccines and things like that, masks, no masks. Do you want to breathe in your own carbon dioxide all day? Do you want to not be able to breathe unrestricted? And so these things now are showing people how free they really are not. And so for the young people and the elderly, but for the young people, and we have children, I have a 23-year-old daughter, and I know she's tired of me talking about these things, but this is how I can help her, because I'm not a rich man. I'm not a man that can say, this is what here's 100K, here's whatever. So I'm offering you 100K in advice. I'm offering you millions in advice, because if you take this, you're able to stack money. And then if you want to go into the regular on-grid stuff, at least you have a head start. So there's extremes. There's way off grid and just away. And I'm into that. I'm into look, I don't want no parts of the system. And I've been that way even before I got into this. But there are other people who want to have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and that's fine. But hopefully this presentation can show different ways to go about doing that. And of course, we're talking about energy to power all of this stuff. If you've seen any of my posts, you know I'm a solar guy. Solar is free energy from the sun. It can be expensive up front. It doesn't have to be, but it can. It wasn't for us when, because of, we went through China and got some stuff shipped over, and it was a long process, but it was a lot cheaper than what, basically I got double what I would have gotten for the same amount of money had I gotten it here domestically, which those panels are made in China. So it's not like, oh, we should support domestic anything. It's not. Solar panels are, most of them are made in China, including the battery banks and different things. So solar works like that. You catch the sun in the daytime, you use it in the daytime as well, but you want to get more panels than what you need for your daytime use, so that the other energy that you collect goes into a battery bank. When the sun goes down, you use the energy from the battery bank and you do it all over again. And this cycle never ends because the sun always rises. And even on cloudy days, you produce a little bit of energy, and you want to oversize your battery bank. So on cloudy days, 1, 2, 3 in a row, you still have energy. That's how solar works. That's also how wind works. Just a little different. Of course, wind, you can have a hybrid system like this one, where you have solar and wind, but the wind, spins the turbine creates electricity, and you send it to a battery bank, or you send it through your house, however you got it set up. And again, what I'm talking about is not free up front, but it creates a situation where you can be free. And we're talking about freedom here. And so for me, if it costs me 20 grand to pay for solar panels that power a house, and so like a regular house on grid, so to speak, and then the house that I have on the land, or the dwelling, or the tiny house, or the RV, then I'm free of that stress of saying, well, I have to go to work because I have to pay that bill. No, I already worked, and now I'm retiring, is the way I've always looked at it. So I'm retiring. And this is what retirement looks like for me. All of these systems that I'm talking about, now we're talking, right, we're how can I say, we are free from the grid. The 4 pillars are now taken care of. Now it's just up to me of what else I want. I want internet. Yep. Okay. $30 a month. We could do that. I want, like I said, you want to go buy other types of foods, different things. It'll knock your monthly, say 150 a week grocery bill down to 50 a week. So maybe now you're at 200, now that's 230, right? So here, your electric, we know how much electric is. We know how much, excuse me, energy is not just electric, it's gas, it's this and that, but it's all used to power the same things. So what you want, sorry, put this up here. What we're doing is creating that situation for ourselves, right? Where we're free from the things that keep us tied to the grid. And people always say food, clothes, shelter, things like that. I always say take the clothes off. If we gotta, as a necessity when the ish hits the fan. Okay. You want to be covered, you want to have clothes, but most of us already have that. Most of us already have clothes. So you don't need to go get those if something were to happen. But most of us don't have a way to catch our own water, or get it from the ground, from the well. Most of us don't have solar panels. Most of us aren't growing our own food. And most of us are paying someone else for our ever so essential place to live. So we want to talk about with our families, alternative ways of getting to that place of freedom, of financial freedom. It doesn't always have to be through making more money. It can be reducing your bills, reducing your overhead. If you look at yourself as a business, we call it overhead. So we want to reduce that. We want to say, okay, what am I doing that's not a necessity? And you start chopping those things down, because it's a lot of waste. All of us have it. We do it, and those things are, a lot of times, they're not healthy for us. They're not sustainable. So once you start to transition, and it's been an 8-year transition for me from moving from Connecticut to the South, first to South Carolina, and then now to North Carolina, back and forth, because my farm, the More Love Farms, has 2 locations. The South Carolina location is the one that's I've been working on a little longer, and we're working on this one now. And so I do go back and forth, and I want to have the freedom to do that. Not just go back and forth to work on the farm, but to visit family, to have a life, a quality of life. And I remember when I was in Connecticut, and I remember I worked for the city of Stamford for 7 years, not to mention all the jobs I had before that. But that was the one that really, and before I got that job, I never forget a guy. He was really young too. He was 42 at the time, and he had been there already for 20 years. And I was temping, and what he said to me, and I understood it because I was already a person who didn't want to be locked in, but it made more sense once I got to my 5th and 6th year working there. He said, this is a great job, the benefits and all of that, and the pay was good, but it's like a prison sentence. So what he said to me, and I was 28 at the time, I had children already, and I was looking to make sure that I could provide for them. And it did allow me to do a lot of financial, help, paying child support or whatever I had going on. But what it did was it took me away 6 days a week, nights. So through Monday through Friday nights, and then Saturday and or Sunday for overtime, because that's the only way I could survive. It wasn't enough, the regular. And so that was it. That was my life for 6 years. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. I had got a car note. I never wanted to do it, but I did it. Got a mortgage. By the way, just so you know, mortgage, the first word in mortgage is mort, like dead. M-O-R-T, dead. Engage in French means pledge. So a mortgage is a dead pledge. You can look that up. I'm not making it up. Mortgage, dead pledge. So that was just a little, to let you know where you're going. And when I looked, so I had bought I didn't buy, right? I hate when people, I don't like when people say they bought something when you're paying for it. You're buying it, but you didn't buy a house. So I was in the process of trying to pay down a mortgage. And that was about $156,000, 1,000 square foot duplex in Bridgeport. And after 4 years of paying roughly $1,000 a month, it was a little bit more with the insurance and all that. And I'm going to leave that out, because and then I had to also pay for a new furnace and put new windows. I'm going to leave all that out. I'm going to give you the number. So that's 4,000, that's 12,000 a year times 4, 48. So I had paid $48,000 into this place. And one day I said, because I hadn't done this, I hadn't looked at the principal. I was just paying because, hey, it's a roof over my head. It's supposed to be ownership. I'm feeling good about having a home. And I looked at the principal, and it had only moved about $6,000 down to $150. And man, that really was what started the kind of, what else? There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to live life, because I'm able to pay some things, but I'm missing out on everything. And I'm a creative person. I'm an artist. I want to do music. I want to do art. I want to do these things. And I really don't have the time because guess what? My bills are about $3,000 a month. And I got to go to work, right? And people will tell you, you're doing a good job, man. I was being praised because, hey, man, you work for the city. You got good insurance. Your children can get insurance. These are the things that people value, but I didn't. I always value my time and I value my quality of life. So that's my story. I just wanted to tell that because I know people have stories like that, and people have where they sit back and they say, what am I doing with my life? How am I going to make my life the way that I need it to be, have the quality of life that I want to have? And for me, that was the answer. So someone taught me how to grow food. And once I grew some food, I said, wait a minute. Okay, well, I live in Connecticut. I can only grow a certain amount. I need to move. And I started to just make the plan. And in that, started to study greenhouses, hydroponics, all of this stuff that has to do with growing. So I could become a master. So, because for me, it's about mastery. And then from there, I started thinking about energy, solar panels, things like that, because I'm looking at these bills. I'm like, this is what's keeping me tied to this. The grid is this. It's right here, all these envelopes. This is the grid. And how can I get rid of these? And before we go, end this and go to any questions, if there are any, the best way, in my opinion, particularly for young people, but everybody, is to try to find people who have similar like minds and do this in the community to reduce the initial upfront cost, because it can be hefty, right? It doesn't have to be, but it can be, because you gotta, if you have nothing, and a lot of people in the north don't have land. See, down here, people have land so when I'm talking about this, it makes more sense down here. But up there, you don't really have land. And if you do, it's really small, and it's like in the suburbs where you have houses next to each other, and you really can't do that. And you got HOA, and you got all of these community rules and things like that. So go with the community way of looking at this, because I think that, and for me, that's what I wanted. And of course, initially, I'll bring your family in, and they were excited about it to a certain degree, and then they changed their mind. And I was upset. And then as I grew into it, I'm like, you know what, this is not for everybody. So I'm not upset with them anymore. And I just went on and on. And you find people who are like-minded, who want to do this, and y'all talk about it, y'all strategize, y'all come up with a plan, and you can do this. And before I give out of here, I did want to go, let's see, can I go back? I did have this because if you want to check out some people that did what I'm talking about, here are some channels to go check out. The Bush family, that's a YouTube. That was a young couple who, and I'll pull it. I saved this right here.
The anesthesiologist.
Oh, I didn't save that, but
looks like residency did a number on you.
30 seconds. So what they were able to do in 2 years was pay off $125K, that was both of their student loans, that was their car notes, that was everything. And I followed their journey. When you follow their journey now, they have a small child, and they decided to go out of their tiny house into a bigger home, but they were able to put a large lump sum on it and they're flipping houses because they have so much cash from not only the 2 years that they paid their debt off, they stayed in that home and kept on saving money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that worked for them. So check them out, and you can check out this couple as well, De La Chris. And if you see here on the first video, it says building our own house, episode 32. They're already finished with that house that they built whilst being in an RV. They took I think 4 or 5 people in their family, the husband, the wife, and their children, and they moved in an RV on a piece of property. They stayed in that, saved all the money. She stayed home too with the children. With only his salary, they were able to save up enough to get the property and build the house from scratch. And it didn't take as long as even I thought it would have. I mean, they worked and worked and worked, and they got videos documenting this whole process. And they were able to now build a mortgage rent-free home that now they can actually have a quality of life, because she can choose to go to work, stay home, whatever. And just with his salary, as a personal trainer, nothing really extravagant. I know they make a lot of money, but I'm just saying it's not like he's a doctor or something where you would think just save all of that money. So that was just just those examples of people doing it. Nope, let's not do that.
Peace. We're at the 43-minute mark. You might have already been paying attention, but yeah, I definitely wanted to get these names down.
Yeah, I want to pull that back up so people can write that down if they need to. Yeah, with the Kirsten Dirksen, that's just a whole bunch of people doing some awesome stuff with tiny houses and communities of people who grow food on a empty lot, all of that kind of stuff. Lead Farmer is just a guy who's been a gardener. He shows you how to grow fruit trees and all of these things and survive and use solar. He's got a real nice platform. Living Big in a Tiny House, that's just really like a big channel from New Zealand, where I think he has about 4 million subscribers. And they just talk about how all of these different families and people downsized, went off and lived in a tiny house, and so on and so forth. And then if you're into solar, if you're a solar nerd or anything like that, go to DIY Solar with Will Prouse. He's kind of the man online with that, got a couple million followers. And then I'm going to start my own page. So I had to put that up there at the bottom, More Love Farms. I do have a couple videos, but they're private, and I'm going to do a few more so I can have some content. And hopefully anybody that is watching or will watch in the future had an opportunity to take some information from this. Zakari Fahim L on Facebook. You can always reach out, inbox me, friend me. I always answer questions about these things when people have them, and I have no problem sharing the information. And so thank you. Don't forget, again, morelovefarms.com. Go there, check us out. There's information up there, and I'm going to be starting to really get into the things that I'm talking about now on the website. So peace and love.
Thank you. That was so good. Oh my God, that was so good. Thank you so much for that. Now, okay, so we had one comment, Amir, John Ruffin in the comments, but he said build a fishing lake. When you were talking about the well and things like that you could put on your property and land, he was saying one of the things you could do is build a fishing lake. Which I think is a great idea, because, to have control of that and understanding the breeding of fish and things like that, I mean, that's more food, more love.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was a great comment. And you brought up, I had some questions about restrictions, like in terms of laws in different states and things like that. Are you familiar with what some of the restrictions might be, or rather, like, what are the most friendly states to live in when it comes to living off the grid and things like that? Do you have any suggestions?
Sure. So like I said earlier, when it comes, and when I started to talk about taxes, and I don't, we need a whole nother conversation, right? So, but to answer your question, try to be direct, is there are many ways. So like, for instance, if you put your tiny house on wheels, it's considered an RV, in which case none of the restrictions go down to very minimal. If your property is within city limits, within the limits where the jurisdiction tends to be over your shoulder, then you're going to have to figure it out wherever you are. However, well, like I said earlier, for me, I'm the in the woods guy, or at least away. So the rural properties, there are less restrictions. There's nobody coming to the farm property out there, driving on there and saying, what is this dwelling you got right here? So you want to try to go with, more rural, less restriction. And for me, of course, it's further from the big city. And if things go crazy, that's where I want to be. But they're like states. It's hard to say what states are, because the jurisdictions really for that kind of stuff are in zoning, which is municipal. So places like Portland, Oregon, which I'm not suggesting, but I know for a fact, Austin, Texas, there are many places that have become tiny house friendly, that have become sustainable lifestyle friendly. And the places like that are in California and in New York, those are socialist economies. They're not this, you know what I mean? So I would avoid those states if I can. If I'm already there, then I would try to go as far off into the rural setting to where you can have less restrictions. So some of those restrictions, they're ridiculous, actually. And it goes back to this whole presentation about freedom. When you try to go and do something like this, you start to realize how not free you are, no matter how much money you have, because someone's going to tell you what you can and can't do with your own land, with your own house, with your own thing. In some places, they don't want you to catch rainwater, believe it or not. They don't want you to have solar.
I was going to ask you about that because, I've heard a lot of stuff about that type of a thing, like catching rainwater and, basically like states giving people a really hard time about catching what comes freely, from the universe. Like, it just is amazing to me what they feel like they have authority over. And, it's scary in some ways, but I like your attitude with basically just choosing, being smart with your choices of where to live, and suggesting that you choose like more rural settings and things like that. Because for me, like, I live here and I live close to a few people, on the street with a bunch of folks, but like you, I would prefer to be more in a rural area where you can feel more free, and you are more free in the choices that you make for yourself. And I love this presentation because when you talk about like the solar panels and things like I'm really into this type of stuff. And I've been looking at tiny homes, I've been looking at tiny options and all these different things for years now. I've been talking about that because being free, and to your point about quality of life, it's everything. Because I was watching this video and they were just basically saying how they don't know anybody that has more than one job that has more money. Like, you don't even
Right.
end up with more money just because you have more than one job or anything like that. And I'm always trying to encourage people to, and I understand like entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. However, I feel like with entrepreneurship, as opposed to working for somebody every day, unless if you're working for somebody every day, then do the best you can with that money to put something to the side in
Yes.
order to, create, like you were saying before, this lifestyle that you really want for yourself, or sell that home, get into a tiny home so that you can have the money to invest in the land that you want and put your tiny home on that land. Like, I like the fact that you touch base on younger people and how this is a wonderful option for younger people to avoid going into debt and actually having, like, say if they did want to work those regular jobs or whatever just for a while so they could build their paper, at least they're minimizing the debt that they will go into and the money that's coming back out of their pocket by choosing to live tiny and by choosing to live off the grid. And like you say, everybody can choose their level of luxury that they want within their tiny living. But at some point, if you are, like overextending yourself, then you're missing the point. Um, and so I love everything that you touched on so far, and it really resonated with me, especially with the quality of life piece. Um, I feel so restricted in my life in so many ways, and quality of life is at the core of what I know I want in order to live a life that, because I mean, tomorrow's not to promise and nothing is really promised to you. So I definitely don't want to live my life under a lot of tension and stress. And, oh, I left my job in 2010, and that's the way the universe deemed it to be, because I haven't turned like, and it's crazy because right after that, I was just in my mind. I was like, oh, I have to have a job. I have to have a job. Like, I gotta keep looking. I gotta figure this out. I gotta, I can't just be sitting. I can't just be like my brain was going crazy.
Yeah.
And I see that in a lot of people because you hear, oh, well, you ain't a taxpayer, you ain't a this, you ain't a that. And people like you said, they encourage you to continue to be a part of the system because that's where their mind is. They haven't been elevated to have information or been privileged enough to get information to live a life that is outside of what they know, and what they're being taught is what it should be. We're actually being encouraged to go into debt. And you even talked about the mortgage, about it basically being about debt. You're going to pay for this until you die, point blank, period. Like, what kind of life is that? So I, like, you just touched on so many things. So I want for you, we have to talk about you having some follow-up workshops, on this platform. So because this is such a vast conversation, right?
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
so
Yes.
vast. And I know for me, like, I'm really passionate about self-sustainability and us understanding that, hey, we don't need anybody. All you need is yourself. Period. At the end of the day, if things were to go to the wayside tomorrow, people are so disconnected with how food is comes to be on their plate. They have no respect for animals. They have no respect for animal life at all. Like, they're just eating. Oh, I'm gonna eat a bunch of meat and this, that, and the third. And there's nothing wrong with choosing to eat meat, but I just feel like there's a lack of connectedness with the actual nature itself of that animal. That animal had a life, and we go to the store and we just grab it, right? We just go to the store, we grab our vegetables and we grab everything, and it's already done for us. We don't even have respect for farmers. Nobody really knows what's happening with farmers who go out of their way to make sure we have that this stuff makes it to our tables. So I feel like there are so many more conversations that could be had. And even when, because I know you plan on doing your own thing, but I would love to have you back to dig in more to some of these conversations because they are needed. So
Sure.
we have a few comments. Um, my mama Phyllis and Mama Akina, she says very informative and much needed.
Thank
Rashidi, who's a moderator in the group, he says some great info. And Arden, who facilitated, that was our last workshop
you.
on
Yes.
the intro to civics. And she says the land is vast, and the land is vast. There's a lots of places that we could choose from. I know that I definitely plan on moving down south at some point. Like I was telling you before, my
Right.
daughter's in North Carolina. Like, she's a real great motivating factor for wanting to do it sooner than later. But the quality of life, Like, we should not be here just living and working just to live. Like, that's not quality of life. You know, there are so many options. It's just about us taking a step back, putting fear aside, putting all these thoughts aside about what we need to be doing and how we need to be doing
Right.
it. And it's
Right.
crazy because there are a lot of people who live that life or know somebody that did, but somehow they can't relate it to themselves because they just don't know how to stop long enough in order to, you know, really attain and live the life that they see for themselves or they would really love for themselves, you
Yeah.
know. And I think that seeing this workshop will help to motivate more people to know that this is an option for them. And I know for me personally, you know, like, as a single woman, my thing is like, when you talked about basically connecting with similar minded people and knowing that you don't have to do this alone. Like, there are other people who think like you or who have already done it, and you know, they're ready to welcome folks in and teach them about what they need to do, what route to take, you know, how to get their solar panels, how to hook it up, like whatever it is. And I feel like we have to get back to the collective economics of this whole thing, right? So somebody has you, maybe you're growing fruit, you know,
All
somebody
right.
else has a well,
All
so you
right.
know they could get the water to you quickly. So you know, there is about working with those around you who are already doing this, because you know, like, you're not reinventing the wheel. You
No.
basically like showing them, hey, this is the wheel. Like,
Yeah, this is
you
the
know,
wheel, right, right,
so
right. I go,
you're not reinventing
I
it.
go online and find the information just like I'm sharing. People might find it from me. I've gotten
Right.
it from other people, and people are literally creating these channels, and they're monetizing them, and great for them. But they're sharing the information, and it's important for us to do that. It's important for us to go in and find the information and utilize it because it is there. There's no shortage of that. Trust me, once you dive into it, I know you know because you've been looking at it, but it's everywhere. And
Mhm.
just really quick, I do want to say this because I know I meant to get it in there, but on top of all of what I said, people are making a killing on Airbnb, renting out their tiny homes. So even if you get one while you're working a job,
Mhm.
and you start to rent that out, I'm telling you, I was going to pull it up and everything, but I just got, you know, they're rented out, almost all of them, especially if you have a unique one, a unique stay, a dome or something cool like that, which we have, which is what I'm trying to work on now, is to get them up and running for Airbnb. They're booked out anywhere from $99 to $268 for 30 days from March to October.
Wow.
Go check it out
Wow.
if you don't believe me. Go to Airbnb, put unique stays, dome homes, or whatever, and try to find a time where you're going to stay that's not in the winter. Say you want to stay anywhere from March to October, you'll have to go through it because and find a day, right? Maybe a
Mhm.
holiday, maybe
Mhm.
something like
Mhm.
that, because they're booked up. And the guy came into our store the other day and he shared it with me. And his property is 5 minutes from ours. And,
Wow.
and he showed me everything. He said, because I have been thinking about it and wanting to do it and just getting, I mean, it takes time. And so it just, he re-sparked it for me. And so, and his is $99 a month. And he showed me October and November were booked. No, I'm sorry, September and October booked all the way out. So if you do the math on that, right, that's $6,000 right there. One of those domes costs $6,000.
If you look at the commercials now, actually Airbnb, they are doing commercials on these unique stays, right?
Because that's
So
where the
it's
money is.
70s theme now, it's like all these different themes, and obviously tiny homes is one of them, right?
Yep.
Because I even watch, if you even go to Hulu or Netflix or
Yeah.
any of these you know, providers, they have shows that show you what
Absolutely.
these people are doing. And this is like not new stuff. Like these people have been in this and doing it for a long time. You're actually giving me a lot of ideas about things that I can do in the position that I'm in, even currently, like putting money away for a tiny home, like that I could even rent out. Like what? So it's
Yeah.
amazing. Or getting me two tiny homes, so it's like the I'm just so, oh my God, like you just got me real fired up, like so
Awesome.
greatly about this. No, seriously, because I want to be free in the way that I want to be free. I don't want to feel stationary, like, oh, any little money I get, it has to go towards the bills or this or that or the third, um, and we are here to not be stagnant. We're here to grow, to
Absolutely.
learn, and to continue to build with one another and get information and actually apply it. Don't just get it and not apply it. So anybody watching this, you're getting the information, apply it. We're in a better position than we think we are in. So this is the time. Like I feel like people have been saying this is the time since forever,
Oh,
to
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
do
yeah.
something. But I
Yeah.
feel like at the time that you get the information, that's the time.
That's the
And
time.
I mean, the comfort that we live in currently, without a doubt, this will not be like this for forever. Once upon a time, we didn't have this comfort. We were having wars and different things going on. So it remains to be seen when it will happen. But better believe it will at some point in time. And you better be in a position to be able to do for self, because when the power is gone, what you gonna do?
And that's relative, right? Comfort is relative. Like, because I know you're not speaking for everyone, because there are people who aren't comfortable, who have
Right.
already seen through just, and I'm just talking about for now, through the pandemic, who has
Mhm.
lost everything.
Yep,
There are lots of people who have lost
that's
their
true.
jobs, their way of earning for themselves. And when you go watch these videos too on the stuff that we're talking about, you'll see those even more recent videos where people said, I didn't have this in my plan. But you know what? Because of this pandemic, because of this situation, I started trying to figure out how can I survive. And
Mhm.
one of the ways that people are doing it is by minimizing their bills, minimizing their overhead, and going into the tiny house, tiny living, small. It doesn't even have to be tiny house, the official, because I think under 400 feet is official tiny house. So you
Mhm.
might have something that's 600 or 700 square
Mhm.
feet.
Mhm.
But again, that's like an apartment in the city,
Mhm.
apartment in New York, apartment in Connecticut, these condos, these places that you're renting out. Like the dome that I have was two of them actually, and they're 530 square feet each. That's a
Wow.
lot of space.
That is a lot of space.
They're huge. The ceiling's 15 feet. It's beautiful. You got the big bay window. Quality of life. I can wake up, look out, see whatever the nature, grow some, use that big bay window as a greenhouse, grow some
Mm,
stuff inside, some tropical fruit that you can't really grow in these climates. And so, I mean, go on and on and on. Like you said, we
right.
can have another conversation. But yeah, it's relative to where you are. If you already lived in a certain poverty state, this pandemic could have kicked you right out into the streets,
Mhm. Mhm.
or you weren't able to pay your lights. So maybe
Mhm.
all the lights didn't go off, but yours did,
Right.
and that happens for a lot of people all throughout, or even through all of these crazy storms that are happening everywhere all the time. The droughts on the West Coast, everything is happening right now. It's not about, and I know people say this, but we've been studying and looking at this for a long time. We're in it. Everybody's not affected the same, but we're in it's the
Yeah.
end of
Yeah.
the way we knew it. It's ending right now, right?
Right.
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 You have to pick which side you're going to be on: vaccine, no vaccine,
Mhm.
work, not work.
Mhm.
So now's the time to try to dig in and say, this is how I want to have a quality of life. And for me, this is how I've chosen to do it. and I'm willing to share, and I'm happy that I was able to come on here and share, and definitely we can talk about another time. And
Yeah, I would love that. I would definitely love to talk about another time. And I just wanted to ask really quickly,
sure.
now, are you connected with providers that can help with solar power, like, getting the solar panels, um with doing the wells or whatever? Like, are you contracted to be hired for these things as well? Like, what do you do? What services do you offer?
So being, I mean, I can install a solar to a certain degree, right?
Hmm.
I've taught myself, but it is electricity. So at the very end of it,
Yeah.
I want to have an electrician to at least make the final connection,
Hmm.
if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
No, that makes
So,
a lot of sense.
right?
You
Because
want to live.
yeah, on my, I can practice on my system, and which
Right.
which I did. I built it. It's great. It's creating power, but I didn't tie it into the big house yet because it's a little, it's just some power. I got a
It's
big
serious.
system. It's some real power. It's not like a small little, generator, right? So
Right.
but yes, I've been asked to do that. I'm gonna be, doing that. So yes, when it comes to that. Now, well, no, you need huge equipment most of the times. I mean, you can do some small stuff. I haven't done that, but I have built a rainwater catchment.
Okay.
So that personally, me, yes, I can do that as well, or at least point somebody in direction.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah,
Do you know black contractors that at least have the maybe, but they could get it done? There's some, but
like
folks that can get it done,
yeah,
have the
because
equipment and stuff like that.
you can do that type of stuff just as a simple carpenter.
Mm.
Okay. Same thing with building your tiny home. If you can find carpenters who build homes,
Mhm.
it may not be specific in tiny homes, but you see, and so to answer your question directly, no, I haven't accumulated the list to give to people,
Mhm.
but I can definitely give them information that allows them, that will help them know the right questions to ask, things
Right.
like that, so they can find their own, especially, being in different states and different
Mhm.
places.
Mhm.
So if people want to reach out to me when they're ready or before, to just try to get some, what should I be asking? Should I get a plumber? Should I get a carpenter? Should I get an
Mhm.
electrician?
Mhm.
And yeah, I can definitely help with that.
Okay, that's what's up. I know there's a sister Hafiza Ture. She's been helping people with getting the solar panels and things like that.
Yeah,
So I know that she does something when it comes to that. So I'm gonna have her come on. She talks about a few different things. So I definitely want her to talk a little bit about that as well.
sure.
To connect it to what you're talking about. And I mean, there are people who are selling these solar panels. You could get them
Oh,
used.
for sure.
A lot
Yeah.
of people think you got to get
Oh,
everything brand new, but you can get
no.
things used. Like, I mean,
Like I
you
said,
don't
I
have to.
got, yeah,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah. Like I was saying, I went on Alibaba, to be honest with y'all,
Mhm.
and found solar panels for half the price that I would have got, and we ordered two of them
Mhm.
and I'm glad we did that because now shipping is crazy.
Really?
So I don't, when people talk, you got to start seeing the trends and the patterns of what's happening. There are empty shelves in stores
Hmm.
all over.
Yup.
Maybe not as much in Connecticut. I don't know. I know how the money works there, but all the rest of the United States is not like Connecticut.
Right.
You got Cali, they got some money over there, but for the most part, people are regular, you got that middle class or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And in these situations, they're not getting the shipments like the harbor in New York, like the ports of California, right? You
Mhm.
living in some of these other states who may not be economically up to that. So yeah, and so what's
Mhm.
happening is the containers, they're not letting the Chinese ships dock and let off the goods.
Oh.
So I remember one of the last things we got from them. the lady was like, you want to hurry up because there's a lot of political stuff going on and shipping's going to change, and it has.
Wow.
And for anybody that's listening still, check that out. Just put it in YouTube. Ships not being able to dock at ports, and shipping containers being left out to sea for months. Because so this is why I'm saying everything is happening now. I can share a video with you, and maybe you could share it on the thing if you think it's cool, about what the government is asking the farmers to do here, is to burn all their crops.
That's what who was I talking to? And they were telling me about that.
Oh, I got the video.
And that basically they would get money for
Yes.
burning a certain amount of their crops. I was talking to somebody about that recently. That's mind blowing to me. And they're actually giving up because, like, what else are they going to do? They need the money.
Because they're not these. They have these are the ones that the governments gave contracts to. So you know, you have land. Government says you grow corn on your land, and we'll buy it from you. So they're in this loop. Oh, we got this money, but they're also under their control. So now they're like, burn all that corn and we'll give you the money, or we won't buy it and you stuck with all the corn, and we start to fine you.
Yeah.
In that system that we created. And this is all part of, you know, and we can get into all the agendas and all that, but
right.
It's clearly not in the best interest of the people.
Right.
So
right.
That's what you want to forget. If you want to go into agendas and stuff, great. I do. Most of us do. But just be clear that burning crops is not in the interest of the people.
Right.
So that's where you're getting your food shortages from.
I was just about to say that was at the top of my head, and you said it. So, oh my God, yeah. I mean, see, and that's the thing. Like, it's not a conspiracy, right? It's an actual thing that's taking place, because a lot of times they try to say, oh, it's a conspiracy and they're conspiracy theorists and things are happening right in your face. Like, do you really think, if I'm trying to fuck you up, you know, like, do you think I'm gonna be like, I'm trying to fuck you up? Like, probably not, you know, like, I'm gonna be like, no, what you talking about? Like, nah, you know.
Yeah. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing about it. They're not going to tell you, yes, this is our agenda, this is what we're doing, because food shortage came right to the top of my mind, because you know, I'm just like, how is that even possible unless they're creating that? Because I'm like, okay, I watch shows, cooking shows, all types of shows.
Yeah.
They playing with the food, they throwing the food, they, you know, doing all types of shit with the food. Watch Big Brother. What are they doing? They hitting people in the face with spaghetti, with this, that, and the thing. They're doing mad stuff with food in a lot of these shows. How is there a food shortage? Where is that coming from? You know, so it's like, and I just want people to wake up, you know, like wake up, because this stuff is real. And this is really an elitist agenda that's taking place. And if you're not awake and if you don't understand and you're pretending like this stuff don't exist, you will suffer. Point blank, period.
Point blank, which is why I said earlier, and at the smallest level, is to create entities that can buffer between you and them. And if you create religious entities, at least in theory and on paper, you are protected by the First Amendment. And you can create that buffer to saying, just like a church or whatever, like, that's church property. And you can see that very often. If they're doing gentrification projects, somehow they're not knocking down on churches.
Right. That's
and
true.
The property that's attached to the church. Right. So we have our temple, and that's what we have. It's a legit temple, and the house, the land, all of that stuff is under the temple. So when you think about zoning, for example, or let's say down here it's called DHEC, but it's the health department, right? You can go to a church event every weekend, fried fish, whatever they selling. There's no inspections because that's freedom within that situation. They're not coming in there messing with you. But if you go just Joe Blow out there, somebody's just like, yo, they gonna come down there, inspect your food truck. They inspecting that stuff.
That's
true. You need a piece of paper on the thing that say I've been inspected by so and so. And so I'm just trying to give a little bit of the jewels of how to at least in what we talked about today, get even more free as of your body, which is why you always see me put more MOOR, and that's another story. And I know you understand about indigenous.
Yes, I do. Yes.
American. And so being that we need to start to classify ourselves as indigenous people here from this place, because we can't be original people, but we weren't over here.
Right, exactly. I'm so glad you're saying that.
You know what I mean? You can't be original people, but you only come from what they call Africa today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness. Like I was just looking at somebody's post the other day, and they said, oh, that their child asked them who Christopher Columbus was, and how they told their kid that, you know, they basically felt like they were telling their kid the truth. And I was about to start like commented, and I was like, no, let me not say nothing, because you know, Pangea, we were everywhere since the beginning of time, before the oceans began to part, before all of these things, and even when they did, we were still traveling, we were still everywhere since the beginning of time. They have been trying to hide that from us and tell us, oh, you was a slave, you was a slave, that's the only way you got here was through slavery and all that. And see, and that's the thing, right? Even as a child, it was really interesting, because even as a child, even in church, there were certain things I was learning that didn't make sense to me. Because I'm like, well, what about the dinosaurs? And then, you know, in school, there were certain things that they were teaching us about slavery and things like that. Like that's all they taught us as who we are as Black people. And I remember feeling a way about that. Even as a child, like you got me in this room with all of these Caucasians, people who don't look like me, telling me that my being is about being a slave. Something about that, even as a child, did not feel right to me, you know? So I'm glad that we like talking and speaking on that, because you like, we were born here. Like this is the whole, everything is ours. Alaska, Australia, everything. It all belongs. Mexico, everywhere. It belongs to us. If you look at the original paintings, the original art, the original everything, wide noses, curly hair, even the Buddha, wide nose, curly hair, Asia, everywhere. It belongs to us. And that's what I'm just
Yeah, no.
I just get real passionate.
You
You know,
can
I'm
go,
so,
yeah.
so
You can go
passionate
off
about
on it. I already know.
yes. So I do claim it. And you know, one day I'm gonna talk to people about some of the things I've even done in alignment with standing on my square
And
and
on your
all of
square,
this stuff. Because I have stood on my square, and I tell you, I went into court and did that shit. It wasn't nobody, it wasn't no bunch of people with me. It wasn't nothing. I was in that mug. I was filing paperwork on these mugs. I was doing everything, because I was like, I need everybody bond number. I need the whole everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna sue y'all. Y'all gonna owe me this. If you hold me, you're gonna owe me this, and this. Like, I went to the city. I already filed my paperwork there, so they understand
they
what it is.
know
They
prior.
looking at it like, oh, like what is this?
Okay.
But they don't have a choice but to put it on file.
Put it
You
on file.
know, they have to file it. So I have been and continue to walk in my truth. You know, I'm still learning as I go, but I'm not afraid to try it out. And let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. That's one thing about it. Going in a court and saying anything. And I will tell you, because that led me to have an experience that I will write about eventually. And you know, where they was trying to scare me, like they hated me to the core. And I just kept going, kept going, kept going. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it was my saving grace. If not, I would have had all types of stuff on my record, all types of things, because I would have just gave up with whatever they told me to go with or whatever. And so, while we just talking about this real quick, I need y'all to know, don't just accept what they tell you. I don't care what the public defender says. If it don't feel right for you, don't do it. Period. So, and you have a right to that. And you can fire them. They be anyways, we was talking about, listen.
Nah, I'm with you. I'll let you go so I don't have to say it, because you saying everything that I
I'm
would
with it.
say. But like you said, we are the original people. They know it. We don't.
Exactly.
Their government is a fraud. And by you standing on your square, calling their government a fraud, by, saying, look, you can't do anything to me. And they do it because they have the guns. It's an occupation. It's colonial occupation. So what they do is they kidnap you. They make you come into their venue. You step across into the
jurisdiction.
waters, right?
Yes.
Into the jurisdiction.
Yes.
And then you going in and saying, I'm this person, I'm that person. You giving them the name they gave you, and all of that, right? And so, we can go into that, but it's just, I wish, so with what we're talking about today, having this on top of that just strengthens the validity, or even what you asked about was laws and all of this and that. And it's not that we say F that, we not doing nothing,
right?
Because it's hard, because they're an occupying force and they have pride. So you got to be careful until we build ourselves up as the original people to say none of us are taking it. Then it works. But as individuals, we say, nah, look, here's what's on paper. Here's what your constitution says that you have to do. Here's what your paperwork says you need to honor. We've studied it. We're not just going with the okie doke. You can't mess with us through our religious freedom on this, that, and the third. You can't mess with us on, whatever, right? So you learn that stuff. You study the Constitution. You study, and I'm sure you did. You went in there and you tore them a new one.
I really did. They brought me to jail, but because they could not take me right then. They came later. They had to come later, but it was what I needed to do. And then they were trying to make me pay fines. I said, I wish I would pay y'all anything. If anything, you owe me. I'm not giving you shit. Yeah. So, and they were just like, okay, so I end up paying zero, because you guys held me against my freaking will, and I didn't do anything wrong. I was there, and y'all trying to say I was not there. No, oh my God. So like I said, I'm going to talk about this one day. And people have to be willing. You have to be willing to go through the complete process without fear and know that you will be fine. And I did it no matter what. I know my mom and my family be feeling like I done lost my mind because I'm the only one. They don't know nobody that's doing this, right? They don't know anybody that stand the way I do. And with everything I've been, all of the trauma that I've been under in my life, people counted me out. And now here I am being able to see past where they're at right now. So, and I'm not talking about anybody specifically. I'm just talking about people in general who counted me out, in this life. And so it's like, and here I am with this life-changing information that a lot of people are too afraid to even begin to explore. But I implore all Black people, if you are melanated, deeply melanated, everybody got a little bit of melanin, but if you are deeply melanated, I encourage you to understand who you are, where you stand in this world, in America, the United States, or whatever it may be, and to start aligning with your true self, point blank period, and what your rights are here on this earth. You're natural. We are born with rights that
Birthright.
they try to tell you that you don't have. So and what we're talking about today, and with being self-sustainable, is in alignment with when we're talking about knowing who you are, because it's not guaranteed that when you do take this route that there's not going to be anybody that doesn't have anything to say about it, so you need to know who you are, especially if you are highly melanated. So I appreciate you so much, Zakari. Like, this was an amazing conversation.
Thank you so
I
much.
think, oh, so how about so we have I don't want to pronounce her name wrong, but Ms. Rena we have on here, and she says, "Peace, so happy to be here." She was like, "That's right. I also experienced this in court. They got me out of there so fast. I was coming for bonds." I know that's right, sis, because it's everything. It's everything, and I be trying to explain it to people. I be trying to break it down, and sometimes people eyes gloss over. They don't know
Oh
what's going on. They
yeah.
just like, what? So thank you so much.
um,
Like, I am excited for you to come back and speak on, other topics, as well as the development of your YouTube channel and more, videos that are public for us to all be able to, like, check out and, take in as information to help to liberate ourselves, to live more self-sustainably. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank everybody who did show up, and I appreciate it. And I'm here. We can always rap about it. And More Love Farms, morelovefarms.com. Check me out. I love it. Love y'all. And
Yes.
thank
So
you.
y'all make sure that y'all go and support Zakari, support his work, support what he's doing. He has a family. He has, black children that he's raising, and this is of the utmost importance. Send him a little something to his Cash App. Send a little something, because, or to his Zelle or whatever information we have up there. Go visit his website. Go see what he's doing, and make sure you send him a friend request. So he is hyperlinked in the information that we have on the page. So thank everybody who got an opportunity to join us this evening. Thank you so much. Everyone have a wonderful night. Peace.
Peace.